Welcome to our hot seat presentation on China. This is a non-profit presentation made to inform the viewer, you, about how China fulfills the 5 dimensions that HotSpeed created. This is for COM100, and these are the group members that work together to complete the project. How we work together. We used the discussion board number 9 to contact each other. This was very crucial as it set the building ground in order for us to start the project and basically communicate with each other about it. Number 2 is phone numbers. By using discussion board number 9, we were able to exchange phone numbers, which was important as it led to the third step, which is creating a group chat. The group chat was very important for our project as we used it from the start to the end, as it allowed us to communicate with each other via mediated communication in a way in which we would send one message and everyone would see the same message, which is very important, especially when asking questions or clarifying statements. Number 4 is our high school. Now, 3 out of 5 people in this project go to AECEM, and by going to the same high school, we were able to communicate with each other in person, allowing one-on-one conversations to take place. Number 5 is after school tutoring. I was able to help some of my group members after school by informing them about what to do in this project. If they had any questions, they were able to contact me in person after school hours, and this kind of goes hand in hand with number 4. Number 6 is scheduling availability. We were able to schedule a time in which we would all meet together, and this was via the next step, our Zoom accounts. By creating Zoom accounts at the beginning of the school year, we were able to communicate with each other in a way where each person would be talking with their voice and it would be synchronous communication. And by doing this, we also used the tips from discussion board number 11, allowing us to be more focused and making sure everyone would stay on task and weren't scared to ask questions. Number 3 is discussing a time frame. We discussed a time frame in which each of us could do the slides, whether that be at night, at morning, after school, etc. And this was very crucial as it led to number 4, which is discussing the amount of slides. Now, some people in this group, such as myself, we've done 6 slides, while other people have done 3 due to the time frame. And we basically try to balance it out in a way in which the slides would be evenly divided by the amount of time each person could do them. Number 5 is constant instructions. By giving each other constant instructions, as in deadlines like, okay, let's try to finish this on time by 7 p.m., or let's try to finish this on time by 9 p.m., we were able to communicate with each other in a way where deadlines would be set and goals would be met on time before we submitted the project itself. Number 6 is you, the class instructor. You, Ben Walton, were very helpful in this project as you allowed us to ask questions and clarify statements, and it basically helped us make sure we put our best foot forward when finishing this project. Number 7, which I believe is one of the most important things we've done, was motivate each other. We motivated each other whenever we had questions, whenever we felt like, oh, I'm not too confident on this statement, what should I do? We gave them an answer, we gave them citations, etc., and we're able to put our best foot forward, just like what you did, and finishing this project confidently. A basic overview on China. So before we get started, this is a basic overview. So China has a population size of 1.398 billion. It is at a steady increase, and it is the country with the highest population size, right above India, which is above the United States. Some basic demographics about China are the ethnicities. So the Han make up around 90% and is primarily what make up China, as well as the Zhuang, the Manchu, and the Hui. There's also other ethnicities that make up China but aren't as prominent. Other religions that are in China, the main ones are Taoism, Buddhism, and Christianity, but there are also minor religions such as Hinduism, which aren't as popular and don't make up a larger percentage compared to these main 3. The GDP per capita income of China is 10,500.4. Basic overview continued. Now, China is in Eastern Asia, which is surrounded by 14 countries. The countries that surround China are Afghanistan, Bhutan, India, Kyrgyzstan, North Korea, Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, and Vietnam. It also has the second largest economy, right under the United States and above Japan. Some of the military branches that China have are the People's Liberian Army, the Ground Forces, and the Navy. So HOSPI dimensions of national culture. In order to develop the dimensions, it took years of research and it was developed in the 70s. Originally, he analyzed 50 nations, but later moved it up to 76. By doing this, he was able to gather data and information as well as looking at the patterns from it. The dimensions that will be discussed in this presentation are individualism slash collectivism, uncertainty avoidance dimension, the power distance dimension, masculinity slash femininity dimension, and the indulgence slash restraint dimension. Continued. So what is the purpose of it? The purpose of hot seat dimension is to understand cultural differences and measure certain dimensions of each culture. This is useful as it can be measured and compared with each other. So, for example, let's say this country has this percentage on one of its dimensions, while another country is lower or higher. Because you're comparing different cultures, it's also limited, as it can be very broad and it can also be inaccurate. And this can be an issue of some countries like China, in which only a small percentage of data can be gathered because of the large population that is in it.
Hello, I'm Raigichiha, and I will be explaining the individualism slash collectivism dimension. I'm going to start by defining and describing individualism and collectivism dimension. It stresses individual goals, which means if you have a problem yourself or anything like that, it explains what is going on. It relates to social and identifies extent which people in society are integrated. It provides assistance for a person or an individual, which is almost the same thing. And we usually need assistance for these types of things. Just depends whatever you're describing, talking about. It focuses on group goals. Something that people forget is that they forget what the group is really talking about and what they're supposed to be looking forward to, but they end up start talking about something else, which focusing on group goals is very beneficial. It understands in many ways, and understanding in many ways could be very good because some people don't understand the same way you understand, and it takes people forever to learn that. So making something that it can help everyone learn in the same way, in like different ways but end up learning the same thing is very good. It emerges in personality physiology. Individualism, everyone looks after themselves. In individualism, everyone looks after themselves, which means you're just looking at yourself. You don't really care about anyone else. And no, it's not like that, but like you focus on yourself more than anyone else. In collectivism, it's part of like strong in groups, which means everyone's together, everyone's equal, and they all care about one another. Individualism and collectivism describes and explains your national culture score on individualism and collectivism. The score is 20, and the score means is that it could correlate heart data. It could correlate significantly with RVT scores, which health comes in first, which is very good because people usually don't really look at the health and they just look to other things. Continuing, how the dimension exemplified in the culture. Wealth comes first before individualism, which is good because usually people look towards wealth instead of individualism. And in collectivist societies, they have lower press freedom. The culture is different. The divorce rates are higher. Marrying is also different. Possible ways could be age difference. Collectivism it's more on like marrying older husbands and having a younger wife. And pace of life in collectivist societies is slower than individual society, which means in collectivism it's more slower than faster, and individualism, because you're mostly by yourself, it's faster. I'm also doing uncertainty avoidance dimension. I'm gonna start by defining and describing uncertainty avoidance dimension. It is an extent to which members of culture of national society feel threatened by unknown families. If you don't know anyone and out of a sudden people start coming and talk to you, you're gonna feel weird. You're gonna feel like you're gonna be weirded out because you're not really used to that. You avoid and accept societies. You could avoid people, but you could also accept them. Normal life is accepted, which means it's normal if you have a regular life and you don't really care about anything. Less stress and anxiety, which I 100% agree, because less stress and anxiety is very good. It's healthy for your life. Aggression and emotions may be advantage. showing your emotions could be a good thing because normally people forget to show their emotions and they end up keeping it inside themselves for way too long. China's uncertainty avoidance score. The score for China or for uncertainty avoidance score is 30. The score means statistical analysis. It discovers people that drive fast. Speed limits tend to be higher, not risk avoidance. Some may tend to drive slower. There's people that they don't really care about speed limits and they just drive and they just think that's cool. People tend to drive slower. It just depends how you think. Continuing, how the dimension exemplified in the culture. More doctors and a few nurses. There's many more doctors there's more doctors, more nurses. They probably care more about the medical side more than anything else. There is power distance. Power distance is very, very good because having power and keeping distance is very beneficial. Strong and low. And strong and low can mean in many things, but mostly in how the culture runs, how the culture differs from the U.S., the way people interact. If you go to anyone from another culture or anyone that follows anything, you will see the way others act around each other. Nothing is forever. You could change the rules, which is very cool because there's people that they could not change anything. They have to run off what the culture runs on. A different language. From a person that speaks another language, which is me. It's not. I speak Arabic, and Arabic is pretty cool, and yeah, organization and how it works. Every culture has different organization and what they run off of. So when you that's just how you run on it. Anyways, that's the end of mine. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
I'm going to be talking about power distance dimension. Power distance is defined as the extent to which the least powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed uniquely. Power distance is described by the subordinated-superiors relationships tends to be polarized, and there is no defense against power abuse by superiors. Is how people view relationships between people. China's power distance score. Explain. At 80, China cites in a higher ranking of PDI, a society that believes that inequalities amongst people are acceptable. Describe. China has a score of 80 on the power distance scale. This scale is the extension to which the least powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed uniquely. What is the score? The score of power distance is going to be 80. What does the score mean? This score means that a 80 China cites in a higher ranking of PDI. A society believes that inequalities among people are acceptable. China's power distance score continued. The dimension exemplifies in this culture of power distance is behavior, like expressing the attitude. How is a culture different than the United States national culture on this dimension? The culture is different by individuals and influences by formal authority and sanations, and are in general optimistic and about people's capacity for leaderships and initiative.
Hello, my name is DeAndrea Chi. I did the masculine and feminine. So we assume that masculine is for men and feminine is for women. But that is not the case. Men can be feminine and masculine can be for women. Meaning that men can also be girly, show emotions, take care of a child, while the women can work and do hard labor or even own a business. In Hospede's case, masculinity and femininity is known as societal and not as an individual characteristics, but Hospede referred it to as a distribution of values between genders. Now, the China's masculinity femininity score is 66. The masculinity score in China is estimated to be 66 because it is driven to success of competition and achievement for men, while the femininity score is low due to the dominant values in societal or caring for others and a quality of life. So, what does this mean? It means that when you want to be the best, it's considered masculine, while doing something you enjoy is feminine, as stated on Housestead Insights. So, we're continuing on to behaviors and norms. The dimension of the behavior of masculinity and femininity are different, but similar. Masculinity behavior shows that their social norms is that money is important and are ego-oriented. This starts out in schools and continues on throughout the masculinity's life, which builds their social status, while China's masculinity is who can provide more. The femininity shows modest, how a lady or a person can be, with China's modesty and ladies of knowing how to cook or clean. That is their social norms.
According to Gert Hosfide, a country's indulgent restraint score determines a country's level of indulgence or restraint. Indulgence countries value extracurricular activities and fun. They don't have as much as a work ethic. Restraint companies value working hard in strict order. They usually follow the goal of the group and are very collectivistic. Indulgence countries are usually individualistic. China's indulgence restraint score is 27. This lower number means that China is a restraint country. There is a high focus on maintaining order in the nation. This means that there are less sports and a higher work ethic. There is less of a focus on freedoms and a greater focus on keeping order. This means that there's a large police force and strict government control. As a result, many of the Chinese people are collectivistic rather than individualistic. They value family and loyalty to one's group. Age is also heavily valued. Compared to the United States of America, there is a lower birth rate in China, 1 to 2. There's less fun and more work. In fact, many Chinese only get 1 day of the week off. That means they work 6 days a week, although this number is changing. There's a stricter police force and more laws and heavier fines. The government also plays a large role in the country. Music, art, and film aren't as important as they are to the United States. This is because of China's higher work ethic. There's less emphasis on the individual and more emphasis on a group, especially family. Family is a key component to many Chinese people. When visiting China, make sure to be patient. A lot of corporations in China will drag out their due dates so that you have to extend your visit because they think that Americans are impatient. According to kiss, bow, or shake hands, make sure to be patient and take your time. This way, you won't get agitated when these kind of things pop up. Respect those older than you. Age means wisdom. So, make sure to let those older go first and be very respectful and courteous to them. Be punctual. It's a general rule of thumb to make sure you're on time to events. Use official titles. This is another way of showing respect. Make sure to call a person what they want to be called. Bring an interpreter. Although the Chinese will provide an interpreter, some slang can be unknown to them. Bringing an interpreter from the United States can help with these differences. Make sure to put the Chinese first. You're visiting their country, so be very respectful towards them. Don't try to visit on Lunar New Year. This is because of the immense amounts of traffic. There's even air and sea traffic. This is because at this holiday, many Chinese will be trying to visit their friends and family. They usually travel to their place of birth or where their family resides. Don't be late. Being late or canceling events is highly offensive. Also, make sure not to exaggerate or brag. Many of the Chinese people will look into your claims, and it won't look very good on you if your claims aren't actually true. Don't show much emotion. This may seem foreign to us Americans, but many Chinese people are more reserved. This also ties in to not using many gestures. Large hand gestures can throw the Chinese people off of track, and they may lose focus on what you're saying. Don't put your hands in your mouth. This is gross here, but it's even more repulsive in China. A general rule is to not touch your mouth with your hands. Also, be polite at dinners, and if they give you a gift, make sure to give them one back. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Here are the end notes.